Welcome back to WDRB Media, the voice of your community, giving you double the information and inspiration. If you're tuning in, we're talking about race.
Yes.
And you're either listening on your iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, or streaming live at WDRBmedia.com. You're listening to A New Day, and we're your hosts, Juicy J.
And Mr. Bay.
And we have the privilege of having on the phone with us in the studio, Mr.
Dennis Feeble. Why do I keep saying Feeble? Mr. Feeble.
I don't know. Maybe you want to take it back to some FUBU pants or something. I don't know.
FUBU still stuck in me from the 90s. But yeah. So anyway, my brother Dennis, man, we met up in we actually met through mutual friend Universe Kanadu. She connected us. She knew I was gonna be in town. And we were up there doing our thing with Rising Tide Capital, and I was going up there taking my classes over at St. Peter's University. And so I was intrigued with meeting him because she had told me about his TED Talk dealing with race, the work that he was doing in the community, working with the jails, working with the so-called justice system up there, and bringing in some great programs and educating the people on what's going on. Like you say, what's going on in the community. I don't think they know.
Right.
And so, unless it's something that we're seeing on the news, but the things that are causing it, and I think when I say I don't think they know how to fix it. And so, Dennis is one of them brothers that's out there, he in the hood doing some good. When we met, we was like I said, it was me, Reverend Robinson, one of my elders, who also has a nonprofit organization dealing with returning citizens and in the recycling sector. And anyways, we met. His wife, Reverend Robinson, and the wife came out, and we met. It was a cookout. I think they gave away school supplies. It was free. They had drummers that came in because Dennis was he kind of struck me because he Puerto Rican, got long locks down past to his ankles almost, So and then the brothers out there, I was like, wow. I said okay, and then he had his frat brothers out there, so it was like real live, people out there, and talking to these young men in the community, where he's in one of the communities where he's doing some work. So when we first met, like I said, I was just inspired by the work that he's doing, and I always want to connect with good people, so we kept in touch, and here we are. So Dennis, man, tell us about this thing, man, because we've been talking a lot about race lately, and I feel like this show could probably go on. We could probably run this whole segment for about a year straight, and we probably still wouldn't touch on all the topics that deal with race, not just here in America, but globally. So tell me about your TED Talk. Tell me about what you're doing out there with the prison, in the jail system, and with the youth program. Let the people know what we up to out there.
Hey man, I did a lot of studying, a lot of reading in my life, and certain things stuck out to me in regards to my development and my progress as a man, and as if I want to call quote unquote man of color, but being quote unquote Latino, Boricua. I got to a political understanding of who I was and who my people were and nationalism, but, still didn't have enough information to understand what it meant on a higher level than that. Who we are as divine beings on this earth. And when I look at my people, I see beauty in them. And it's always, it's trying to get people to remember. I feel like, people have forgotten. And I'm just here to remind them of their greatness, remind them of the greatness of our lineage, of our ancestry, of all that our ancestors had to struggle for us to be where we're at today. And, and that we establish good foundations for the generations to follow. I don't think it's difficult when it's discussed on the highest level. It's a common understanding everybody wants. But when we start getting into these conversations about how we're divided, no matter where you go, it's going to remain a circular conversation. The issue is that this kind of circular conversation has been made into law. It has been so for centuries. It's archaic. It has no more technical use. It's been disproven. It used to be a science. It's not anymore. Everybody understands that these are social constructs. My question is, why the hell do we keep using them then? Why are people still referring to themselves in colonialized version of who we are as a people?
Yes.
We have a great name. We have a great lineage. We should be proud to say who we are and declare it to the world and let the world recognize.
But
right.
Dennis,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I hope I didn't cut you off. But that being said, we getting up on. I got my cue up for the 2-minute mark. But that being said, though, you know, when we start talking about who we are, when we start talking about the so-called people of color, the so-called African Americans, the so-called Latina, which I know to be all one people in my opinion, and even the whole planet for that matter, they say we all came from Africa, right? We all come from one source, right? So where did all these classifications come up? And who are we exactly, especially when you start talking about the so-called black people in the Americas? Because our name has changed. It seems like every 20, 30 years we got a new name. They gave, you know, and everybody's walking around, but yet and still we don't have land. We don't have a government. We don't have any type of reparation in this country. And when you really study history, you will know that we were already here prior to 1492, when they said Christopher Columbus supposedly discovered America through the doctrine of discovery, which that's a whole nother show that we'll talk about later. So when we say those things, what are we? What are we, man? Where do we come from, brother? You know, and that's the question that we need to really, I think, like you said, we need to get to the root of the matter, because we've been told what we were for so many years. And now it's time for us to reclaim that lost legacy, that lost heritage, so that we can pass that on to the generations to come. And we don't have to go around with these titles, and we can become, you know, a unified people, and, you know, with our cultural differences intact, you know, and restored for those of us who lost those things that are so, you know, dear, that what makes a nation a nation. So that being said, we're going to go back and pay some more bills. But when we come back, man, I want you to talk about that and, man, you know, share with the audience a little bit, you know, about your TED Talk that you did. Because, you know, like you said, all this stuff has been disproven. So why are we still holding on to these titles? All right, Juicy J, take us away.
I mean, you know, you was on a roll. I didn't know, you know, we
I
needed
love
to go
this
pay
stuff.
some tolls.
Yeah.
All right, well, you're listening to WDRB Media, the voice of your community, giving you double the information and inspiration. Don't go anywhere, because we're going to be right back.
Very good.